Hello, everybody, and welcome to Decoding the WSL, the podcast dedicated to the stats and facts in the WSL. It's currently Sunday, the 18th of January, and we've got a panel here today to talk ahead to what's coming up this weekend, or next weekend, I should say, game week 13 in the WSL. I'm your host, Sam Biccarino, and alongside me today, we've got two of the semi-regulars coming back. First up for her 7th episode on the pod, and one of the sort of strongest Know Your Stat contestants that we've got is Laura Howard. How are we doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Sam. I was hoping that the Know Your Stat pressure would have decreased after losing the linear title, but I'm still being talked up far too much.
Well, if you're still going to perform at a good level, you're still going to be in the conversation. But we'll come to that. That'll be another episode coming out another time. Alongside myself and Laura today is someone who, I think last time you were on, I just referred to you as a journalist, but now I can say journalist and commentator, Izzy Gilligan.
No, I guess so. That's my new adventure into commentary and reporting. It's quite good fun. But yeah, nice to be here.
Glad to have you back on. We've got obviously 6 games coming up this weekend, so we're going to start with the game on Friday night, which we don't have a lot in the WSL, so it's nice to have every now and then. Everton against Brighton, Friday night at Goodison Park. A bit of a trek for Brighton on a Friday night, but we know they've got very good away fans, so fingers crossed there'll be a good away support there with them. Brighton have done pretty well against Everton recently. They've won all of the 3 last meetings, winning them 8-2 on aggregate. And all of Everton's points so far this season have come away from home. So those 2 stats on their own, Laura, would suggest that Everton are going to find this difficult in this game. They're going to be up against a team that have got their number and they're struggling to get any points at home. But do you give Everton any hope?
I think it's a really tricky one with Everton at the moment. They just seem to be drifting, and I think you look at them coming into the start of the season, we all expected, this was the season they were going to make their mark. They're out of those financial troubles. They had what appeared to be a really good summer. And now there's this kind of cloud of uncertainty around them with Kelly Gago handing in a transfer request and whether that would be approved or not. And that, I guess, that whole discourse hanging over them isn't going to help. The fact, that they can't seem to win away from home. And I think the pressure really feels like it's on Brian Sorensen now and just that club in general to start getting results more consistently, because so far they haven't shown what they were kind of built to live up to. Yeah, I think obviously a really tricky match last weekend, and I think there was some controversy. They lost 2-0 to Manchester City, but I think there was some controversy about a goal that potentially should have stood for them at 1-1, which obviously does change how that match could have gone, but you can't kind of live on what ifs. So yeah, I think results are really important, but Brighton at home, Everton, at home. Playing against Brighton is always tricky, and I think they're not going to let it kind of go easy. I guess the flip side is that Brighton also have kind of a bit of maybe turbulence at the moment with Dario Vidosic away on leave. I mean, obviously, everyone wishes the best to him, but I think, it's the real pressure on, and I think they will probably struggle again. But I would like to see them get, pick up and really fulfill that potential.
Can I press you for a score prediction?
I go for 2-1 Brighton.
2-1 Brighton, fair enough. I think, like you say, the Dario Vidosic is going to be a key factor in this game. It's an unfortunate thing for Brighton to be losing their manager, and obviously we don't know exactly what's going on, but normally when someone has to take some time aside from the game for family reasons, it's not normally something good. So yeah, thoughts with him and his family. But Brighton are, I think, a team that really respect their manager, that get on really well with their manager, and I think they're a team that rely on him quite a lot for that. And I don't know how well they how good their backroom staff are. You would assume relatively good, seeing as they're a relatively good side. So hopefully whoever steps in will, for their sake, will be just as good. I think Brighton, similarly to you, I think they're still going to have enough in this game. But I think it's going to be a bit closer. I'm going to go 1-0 Brighton on this one. I think Everton are quite good at sort of setting up shop. Courtney Brosnan's been really good form since she's come back, so I'm not expecting her to concede loads of goals, but we also know that Brighton do have some very good forwards in their mix. So yeah, I'm going to go 1-0 Brighton on this one. Izzy, how about you?
Yeah, I think something similar around that kind of 1-0 or 2-1 mark. I do think Brighton will have it. I think that we've seen them kind of it's not the same at all, but I remember the end of last season when they were playing Arsenal, and suddenly those players were announcing that they were leaving, and the manager didn't know what was going on. And I feel like in adversity they seem to kind of come together quite well. So you don't know if maybe they'll unite a bit more in this time of missing Dario Vidosic, and come together and be able to put out a really good performance. I feel like they could finish the season really strongly if they're able to kind of find that togetherness and perform to the level that we know they can, because they've got that potential to be a really good mid-table side who are quite consistent and quite difficult to beat. So yeah, I do think that they'll find some success at Goodison Park, and yeah, I think 1-0 or 2-1 as well.
Which one? Pick one. You can't get away with not giving a prediction.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, fine. I think 1-0 then. I do feel like Friday night, Goodison Park, maybe it's going to be difficult to see 3 goals in this game. I think it's going to be maybe a kind of scrambly 1-0 winner in the second half.
Fair enough. I'm looking forward to that exact thing happening now, and then we can quote this up and put it on socials. Let's move on to Saturday's game, and I think what is potentially the biggest game of the weekend, certainly in my book. Chelsea hosting Arsenal midday at Stamford Bridge. Arsenal are currently 7 unbeaten in the WSL. It's the second longest run in the WSL behind leaders Man City. But Slagers is yet to beat Chelsea in any competition, and Arsenal haven't won away at Chelsea since 2018. Kim Little, Viv Miedema and Jordan Nobbs getting the goals that day, beating Chelsea 5-0 in the end, which was, quite a while ago now. Like, that feels weird to say that's 8 years ago, 2018. Sorry, I was just having a small little moment there as I realised quite how young I was then. It feels like yesterday. The other thing for Chelsea is that they are actually the only team to keep a clean sheet in their last 2 WSL games, which I think shows a little bit about kind of the attacking prowess in the league at the moment, but also how close it is. We know Man City are just going through and basically winning everything since day 2 of the season. But aside from that, no one's really dominating. Liverpool aren't winning, but they're still picking up points, and there's a lot of sort of teams managing to beat each other, teams managing to score against each other. I personally can't see either team keeping a clean sheet in this one. I think both teams have got enough attacking prowess to be getting on the score sheet, as good as the keepers are. But I do think Chelsea are still going to, unfortunately, run out victors. I know we've got 3 Arsenal fans on the pod today, so I'd love to say it's going to be an Arsenal win. I was right, but I think if I'm going to try and get this correct, I'm probably going to go for a Chelsea win, and I think I'm going to go for a 2-1. It's going to be close, maybe a 3-2 or something like that, but it's definitely going to be close. I think there's going to be 1 goal in it, and unfortunately, I think it's probably going to be Chelsea that take it away. I'm going to go for 2-1, but a very close game. Izzy, I'll come to you first on this one.
Yeah, I heard a stat the other day that apparently no Arsenal women's player has ever scored at Stamford Bridge, because they've been played at Kingsmeadow, and that 1 goal that got scored there was an own goal. So this could be the first time we see the likes of those Arsenal forwards scoring at the Bridge, and hopefully, and I kind of agree. I think Chelsea are going to win it. Which pains me, but I do hope that if they do, it's not a scrappy 1-0 like last time with that penalty in the kind of dying moments of the game. You want to see a competition, because that's what makes these kind of leagues exciting. I'd love to see a 3-2 either way. Of course, it would be nice if it went Arsenal's way, but I do feel like Chelsea have that. They're coming off the back of a big win over West Ham, then a big win over Crystal Palace this weekend in the FA Cup, and I think just have that. They've got that goal scoring mentality at the moment, a little bit more so than Arsenal maybe, who've been struggling slightly to find the back of the net and be clinical in that final third. So yeah, I think it's going to go the way of Chelsea. But on a more positive note, I think it's going to be a pretty exciting day out. I'm excited to go there. Lots of tickets sold, and I think it'll be one of the bigger games of the season, and hopefully less controversial than the last time the two sides met at the Emirates.
Yeah, an iffy affair, I think, is probably the nicest way to put it. But Laura, are you going to be any more positive as an Arsenal fan today than we are?
I don't think so on this fixture, but when you mentioned that René Slagers hasn't beaten Chelsea in any competition, it did make me think to all being well against OH Leuven in that kind of extra round of the Champions League that Arsenal have to go through. If they do then go on to meet Chelsea, it is kind of fated that if Arsenal are going to get a win against Chelsea at any point, it would be to knock them out of the Champions League. I think that would be quite poetic. But in terms of Saturday, Yeah, I think I'm with you too, and I think in particular, just in the context of where the Arsenal squad is at the moment, and the kind of this week in particular. Obviously, Aston Villa on the Sunday in the FA Cup, tough match, and we saw Emily Fox subbed at 20 minutes in that match with a possible concussion. And, well, as we're recording, we don't know kind of the outcome of that. It could just have been that it was precautionary. I think Tim Stillman tweeted that she's kind of had concussions twice in the past like 2 or 3 years, so very much could be that that's precautionary. But at the same time, if she is out through concussion protocol, that's 7 days, that would rule her out of the United match and the Chelsea match, which would mean Smilla Holmberg likely to start in both those fixtures, which I think is like excellent that Arsenal recruited and Arsenal have that option. But at the same time, I think when you're playing a team, and she has really impressed me, but particularly going forward and with her delivery of crosses, I felt against Aston Villa she was a little bit more exposed than Emily Fox would be at the back, and that's probably just experience. It wasn't kind of like a criticism on her part, but didn't feel quite as confident. More on the basis of how good Emily Fox is, but that's a loss when you're playing a team like Chelsea, and then also in the context of Arsenal also have. I mean, Chelsea have a midweek match as well, but playing Manchester United midweek as well. Leah Williamson out with a calf injury, Cooney Cross missing from the team. Again, thoughts with her family, but I think those kind of things that are impacting the Arsenal squad make me probably sway a little bit towards Chelsea in this fixture. But then you also look at it and you think this could be really interesting, because where Arsenal have been strong has been in that defensive solidity, and I do think we can score against Chelsea when they're at home. They're playing a little bit more open perhaps than teams that we faced recently. United definitely came to the Emirates to get a draw, so yeah, I think it'll be a really interesting contest. And to be different, I'll go for a draw. I'll go for a 1-1 draw, which I know is pretty boring given that's exactly what happened at the Emirates. But let's be a little bit more positive.
I'd take a 1-1. I think there's certainly we're gonna lose that. I didn't realise that stat of no Arsenal player had scored at Stamford Bridge before, so I think that'll be gone. But whether Rene's going to get her first win against Chelsea, we'll have to wait and see. Let's move on to Sunday's games. We're going to start off with Liverpool against Spurs. And I think it's important to talk about Rafaela Bograffa for this one. She will be back in contention for this game. We obviously haven't seen much or heard much from her from the club for quite a while. If you don't know, the context is that there was an incident during Liverpool's pre-season camp where Bograffa allegedly made a racist remark. Everything has basically just gone very quiet on it. Liverpool especially have not really spoken about this at all. And normally when you see something like this within the game, the club might make a statement, or the league might make a statement, or the player, but there's been absolutely nothing. Then on Friday, Gareth Taylor revealed that she had been given a ban for using discriminatory language to a teammate, and they found out recently that it would be a 6-game ban. 5 of those games have already been served at that time. The 6th game was today as we record against London Bees, so that means that Bograffa is now free to play again should she be selected, and she has also been enrolled in an education programme by the FA. I know she's probably not going... I don't think she's probably going to go start, because I don't think they're going to put her straight back into it. They've also signed Jennifer Falk, who I think is a better keeper. So I don't think they're necessarily going to go straight into it. But I think because there's been so much silence on this topic, and it's obviously very important, I think it's important that if the club aren't going to do anything about it, if the player isn't going to say anything about it, outlets like this should be the ones that do speak up and make it clear what's going on, or at least the information that we have. There is some good stuff on the BBC as well that Emma Sanders wrote about the situation if you want to go check out any more. But let's go on to the football. This is obviously Martha Thomas going against her former side. Obviously she's ineligible to play because she's on loan, but she left Spurs a few days ago to go play for Liverpool. Liverpool have only hosted Spurs 3 times in their history. Spurs have won none of them, but did score in all 3 games. Liverpool this season, at least, are still winless. It's not looking great, but they have drawn their last 3 home WSL games, so it's looking a little bit more positive recently. And Laura, I'm going to come to you first on this one, because I think Liverpool are turning a corner in the right way, because they're not just getting beat all the time now, especially at home. Like I say, they've drawn their last 3, but Spurs are in scintillating form at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be another really tricky fixture for Liverpool, and I completely agree with you. I think they are turning the corner, and they obviously had an FA Cup fixture the weekend against London Bees, which they won 6-0 away from home. And I think sometimes a team like Liverpool, in the state that they're in at the moment, you just need that kind of not to be down on London Bees, but they are tier 4 and arguably like easy win. They've just signed Denise O'Sullivan, which is a really really exciting signing. She scored after 6 minutes, so instant impact from her. And obviously Tottenham are going to be a very very different test. Although not too long ago played at the same ground that London Bees were playing at today at Barnet. But I think it's going to be. I agree with you, like that. This is going to be a really tough test for Liverpool, and it might not be where we see them get their first win in the league. I'm still probably backing Spurs just with the momentum that they have, but I do think going to Liverpool is a tougher test than maybe we would have expected at the start of the season, and I can definitely see Spurs having to really battle for a win rather than kind of it be a kind of dominant contest as such that we might have like said before the break. I'm not sure, is Beata Olsen back for this one, or are we still expecting her to be out?
I'm also not sure. I did ask Tom about this because Tom was in the press conference on Friday, and he said that she's going to be out for the Sunday game. She didn't play today, but Gareth Taylor couldn't tell us basically whether she was going to be available next week or not. It's kind of touch and go. So she might start, she might come off the bench, she might not play at all, but maybe. Sorry, that was not very useful.
No. I think it's interesting, and it'll be definitely like a storyline to keep an eye out for heading into this match. But I think what's particularly interesting, potentially most about this encounter, is it'll be two sides that have had really strong January transfer windows. So just seeing how quickly those players settle in and can have an impact. But I think as it stands, I'll go for a Spurs win. I don't want to go for the same scorelines all the time, but I might go 2-1 again. I don't want to go for the same scorelines all the time, but I might go 2-1 again.
Yeah, go for it. You're going both teams to score in every match so far. Izzy, I'll come to you first. I'll go last on this one.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like we're saying the same score lines, but I think it kind of shows how close the league is, like getting, to be honest, because maybe before you'd have some of these matches and you'd be able to predict like a 3-0 or a 4-0 win, and that would be fun. But I do quite like how the contests are a bit closer, and I think that Liverpool do seem to be growing into themselves a little bit and working out ways to make themselves a lot more difficult to beat than they were at the start of the season, because the way it started, it just felt completely hopeless, and obviously still being winless at this point isn't ideal, and I don't think they're going to change that on Saturday, because Spurs, as much as it pains me as an Arsenal fan to say it, are looking particularly formidable, and I think, and I'm really pleased for Spurs under Martin Ho. I think the fact that they seem to have this clear project and ambition, they're recruiting in the January window, and it's a real 180 from where they were last season. I think they've already got more points in the WSL this season than they had for the whole of last season. So they're looking pretty impressive. So I think I definitely will predict that it's going to go Spurs' way, and they're going to get their first win away at Liverpool. That I think you said that they hadn't won there. So maybe I think they're going to be scoring lots of goals. I'm going to say 3-0 to Spurs. Just a bit out there.
3-0, fair enough. That I think there's going to be a fair few goals on Spurs in this one. I think they are looking that. I think just this season as they go on, they're looking better and better and better. I think Martin Ho is doing a fantastic job. I think the backroom staff, they've obviously recruited there as well. And the signings they've made this January, some permanent, some loan, I think have all been very good as well. And the more they click, the better they're going to end up being. And obviously, Liverpool made a couple of signings. One of them, Martha Thomas, isn't available. The other one, Denise O'Sullivan, has been at the club. I think you'd measure it in hours rather than days at this point. So I don't think she's going to have, after a week, she probably won't have gelled with her teammates as much as some of the Spurs players will. So I think Spurs are going to win this. I think they're going to get their first win at Liverpool. I think Liverpool will still get a goal though, so I'm going to go 4-1. I think it's going to be a bit of a rout. And then it's a little bit different as well, isn't it? Rather than just 2-1 all the time. We'll mix it up. Okay, London City Lionesses against Man City. Man City on an 11-game winning streak, obviously since their first day of the WSL, losing against Chelsea. They've won every game. I did, when I was initially looking at stats, I saw they've got a 100% record against London City Lionesses, and then clocked that the only time they played against each other was the fixture earlier this season, which was a 4-1 Man City win. So in terms of a head-to-head, we haven't got that much to go off. But I think given the form of the team at the moment, I think it's still quite comfortable that it's going to be a City win. They're not, like we've seen in previous seasons where they've got loads of injuries, and that's the thing that hampers them. They've got a pretty fit squad at the moment of really good quality players, and they've made it a bit deeper this season as well. So I think Man City are going to be absolutely fine in this one. I think it's going to be a comfortable win, and I'm going to go for 3-0. Pretty confident for City on this one, unfortunately, because as much as I would love City to slip up and Arsenal get back into the title race, I don't see that happening. Not in this one, not against Eden Mestra's LCL side, who flattered to deceive against Liverpool, I think it's fair to say. Izzy, how about you? How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I'm in the similar camp to you. I just don't see that London City side really doing any damage on Manchester City, who just seem to be slightly unstoppable and looking very good. And I think that, if Arsenal and Chelsea have had a draw on the Saturday, perhaps, or there's some dent to Chelsea's kind of attempts at catching up with Manchester City, they'll just be feeling even more fired up to make the distance even bigger. But yeah, I do think there's going to be lots of goals coming from City's way. I think London City just haven't clicked, and I think it maybe was starting to look a little bit better before Christmas, and then they've had this manager change, and I don't quite understand. I think they want the results to come a lot quicker than they are. They're not being particularly patient. I'm talking about kind of higher up in the organisation there, like just not. You can't just come into the league and expect to go and get Champions League in your first season. The fact that you're mid-table and you're not anywhere near that relegation playoff zone is a pretty good achievement, and considering you basically changed the whole team and the staff and everyone. So I do think that they need to have a little bit more trust in the process and enjoy kind of bonding together and playing together more. But yeah, sorry, bit of waffle there, but I feel like that just means they're not quite ready to take on the likes of this kind of all fit, ready to go Manchester City side with those prolific goal scorers they've got. So yeah, I'm going to say I think Manchester City will keep a clean sheet. I'm going to say 4-0.
And Laura, are you going to be in a similar boat?
Yeah, I was like, I'll try and get different from Sam and say 4-0, and now I've got to get different. So I'll go with 5-0. No, reasoning for that. I think it'll be a high scoring, and I think maybe this will be the game where it's like, maybe Meister's kind of, as Sam kind of said, he's kind of survived a little bit in terms of didn't even get his first win in that first game, which you think, if you're going to get a first win, it's probably going to come against Liverpool with the form in the table at the moment, and that felt like a perfect intro, and then didn't come, and probably lucky to not lose, in fact, and then really, really unconvincing win against Sunderland in the FA Cup. Obviously, going away to the northeast isn't ever going to be easy, but Sunderland currently 8th in the WSL 2, so this isn't a team that's like high on form or really challenging to push to the WSL, and you'd expect London City, with the investment that they have. I think Grace Gayoro got her first, it might be her first goal involvement of the season from a corner there. And so I think, you're kind of looking at how well London City have done, and they have now, I feel, very much started to fall below the expectations. And I think, as I completely agree with Izzy on that point of the managerial change just feels very odd, and I think the justification for it even more strange, in that it's kind of about style, and we want to play this more like Spanish style football, free flowing. And I think what's been particularly strange about that is that, if anything, they've looked less attacking or less threatening going forward. And I think it's really disappointing from a kind of title race point of view, particularly with this match in mind, because you look at the start of the season, you go, yeah, they're kind of clicking together, and they'd started to get into that rhythm, as Izzy said, and you were thinking, second half of the season, London City aren't going to be a team that you want to face. You kind of want to get them out of the way early. And now it doesn't feel the same. It feels very much like I can see City going there without many problems. And I'm thinking maybe this turns into one of those games that you saw kind of at the start of the season with City against Tottenham. Tottenham had potential at that point, but City just proved too good. And I think the attacking threat that City possess, they can roll any team on their day. and I don't think this will be London City's day at all. So I'm not too mad to go with a 5-0. You know, you got Bonnie Shaw, Viv Miedemar. Oh, God knows, you can name that whole attacking line: Carolyn, Lauren Hemp. The list goes on. Like, and you're even seeing people like Kirsten Kasperai getting on the score sheet not irregularly. And when a team's in that form, yeah, I can easily see this be quite a big scoring game.
Yeah, I think with 3-0, 4-0 and 5-0 being our predictions as well, it might not surprise you who my picks are going to be in aerial fantasy when we get to that section later on. I have just fact checked while you were talking as well. It is Gracia-Roy's first assist for the club, and she's still yet to score. So yeah, spot on there. Let's move over to the Midlands for the final two games. Start with Villa, Man United on Sunday at Villa Park. The first 12 times that these two teams played each other in the league across the Championship and in the WSL, Man United had won all of them until the reverse fixture this season at LSV, where Aston Villa went out 1-0 victors. So it has historically been a very Manchester United heavy result. But Izzy, do you think after Villa got one up on them earlier this season, do you think they can do it again?
Villa are a bit of a kind of banana peel team in this league, and they have been for a while. Certainly, I'm just talking from an Arsenal perspective, they have been, barring today's FA Cup victory. But I feel like Manchester United, they need to show a bit of dominance, and perhaps the new signings settling in, they might start having these big scorelines again. But I feel like if they seriously going to be competing at the top of the table, which they are this season, I'd love to see them going out and winning these games really convincingly against the mid-table sides. But I feel like Aston Villa are really difficult to beat, and it makes it more interesting, makes it competitive. And Villa's, I think, maybe a bit like you were just saying about London City, that is a team you want to get out of the way and just and get it under your belt. I think Aston Villa might be that side a little bit, and particularly if you've got that hanging over your head that you lost the reverse fixture at home as well. Going away to Villa Park is not going to be an easy feat, and Aston Villa will be bang up for it. I don't think either side is going to keep a clean sheet. I think that would be my prediction here. I feel like unless it ends up being kind of 0-0 draw, but I think that both sides are going to score. I do think it's going to be a draw. I'm going to go for 1-1, just because I feel like they've both got the potential to kind of park the bus slightly, and I think Villa wouldn't mind the draw, and Man United will be trying to go all out for it. But yeah, I do think that it's going to end up being the points being shared.
Yeah, I'm similar to you in that I don't think it's going to be a big goal fest. But Laura, I'll come to you first and see what you think is going to happen.
Yeah, I think I'm similar in the sense that I think if you can't tell by my attire of an Arsenal shirt today, I've come back from Boreham Wood from Arsenal's 2-0 victory, and it did feel, from an Arsenal perspective, of one of those games where it could look like another 0-0. Obviously, not quite possible with it being a cup fixture, but it very much had that written about it. And I think part of that was due to, Aston Villa do set up really well. They're really strong in their press. And I think in the first half, Arsenal did struggle at times to kind of work that out. Villa's 5 at the back, really effective. And I think Natalia Arroyo's got Villa playing really well in that formation. Basically just concur with what Izzy said in terms of they do feel like a really tough team to play in the WSL. And I think that's really exciting. They've certainly got results against some of the bigger sides in them, and I can totally see them giving United a bit of a go. I think a lot of it will come down to how well Mark Skinner's got new signings integrated, how quickly that can happen. Obviously, United played Burnley in the FA Cup, I think, and won 6-0, which will be, again, one of those fixtures that's one of those confidence boosters. I think Leah Schuler got her first goal in that match for United. But then at the same time, United are going to be playing midweek away at Boreham Wood, and that's not easy. That's going to tire legs. How much they put into that, obviously, you kind of look at it and go, maybe you rotate. And United didn't choose to rotate against a Burnley side that you think that was the option to. I think the thing on that was that they had an under-21s fixture against Arsenal, on the same day as the FA Cup. So they chose not to put those under-21s in. But that's 3 games again, and another tough game against Villa, against the side. And I think as well, it's interesting, like you look at the Arsenal-Chelsea game, and that's going to be another tough fixture for Arsenal. But I think Arsenal-Chelsea games have this like different psychology of they are a big match. You're playing at Stamford Bridge, and this is obviously at Villa Park, but I don't think Manchester United Villa has that same mentality for players of like, this is a huge occasion that you get up for in a way you don't get up for other games just psychologically. So it will be really interesting whether United can get up for that in terms of, obviously they're professionals and they can in some ways, but in terms of you're playing 3 matches in a week and how that impacts them as a squad, they are so much stronger depth wise after this transfer window, but how that will affect them and how well those new players have gelled, and whether we see kind of Ellen Vangerheim have involvement this week will be also interesting. So yeah, I'm kind of that's very like long-winded way of saying I think it will be a tight match. I think again probably I think we've seen United's defence doesn't feel as solid as it has done in past seasons, so I can definitely see Villa scoring. I think Kirsty Hansen's looked really dangerous so far this season, and I thought Orion Jean-Francois looked good in her little cameo that she had off the bench against Arsenal, and obviously that will only continue to settle throughout training. Maybe a bit too soon to have her really settled in, but I think that's an excellent signing for Aston Villa. And yeah, so I think it will be really close, but I think Villa have looked secure at the back, so I'm potentially leaning towards kind of Izzy's pick. I'm gonna go for a very optimistic as an Arsenal fan 1-0 win to Aston Villa.
I like that. Basically the same as the first result this season. 1-0 Villa win again. I'm hoping that you're right, but unfortunately, I don't think you are. I think Man United will win. I think Aston Villa are going to be they're going to find it a lot easier to get motivated for this. If they win, they'll only be 3 points behind Man United, which, considering Aston Villa have not at all been in the conversation of, they've sort of been in the conversation of, oh, can they get into the top half ahead of, LCL and Brighton, teams like that, but not in touching Man United, Arsenal, Spurs. Whereas, yeah, if they win this game, they're only 3 points behind. But yeah, I'm going to sort of round off the low scoring fixtures, and I'm always going to say 1-0, but to Man United. With going away to Arsenal in midweek and then having to go away to Aston Villa as well, I think they're basically just going to try and not save their legs, but obviously if you play a lot more defensive, you tend to not expel as much energy. You tend to, and we know Man United can defend. They can defend really well. They're probably one of the best defensive teams in the league. So I think they're going to have that in them, and I think Mark Skinner's going to use that capability and go for a bit like they did against Arsenal, not necessarily go and try and score 5 goals like they did against Burnley, but more just try and see the game out and just try and win in some sort of way. And yeah, I'm going to go 1-0 for that reason. On to the other game in the Midlands, Leicester versus West Ham. This one Sunday at the King Power. Leicester have only lost at home to West Ham once in their history, which was 2-1 back in May 2023. So Leicester, although, both of these teams are ones that, let's say down the lower end, to be polite, of the WSL this season, ones that are going to be sort of flirting with that relegation playoff. I do think that Leicester have, in the last couple of weeks, have really taken a positive step in the transfer window. They've obviously not done loads, but they have done, I think, might be one of the most important signings of the season for any club, bringing Rachel Williams in, because I think she is the sort of person that she's not going to go and score every single match, but you can bet that she's going to score some goals and probably some important goals. She's the sort of player that can go and get a header to win a game 1-0. And I think this is exactly the sort of game when that can happen. Especially as West Ham have lost 2 of their best defenders. Anouk Denton's obviously gone. Ombatiziak's gone to Germany as well. Which are 2 really strange signings. So although Cascarino's come in and you would assume maybe making a WSL debut, depends if she's got her earring out or not. I do think Leicester is still going to manage to get away with a win here, and I think I'm going to go kind of just for the story of it, but a 1-0 win with Williams getting the goal and something like 87 minutes. So yeah, Leicester win for me. Izzy, how about you?
Yeah, it's just, I feel like when we did the podcast back in the start of the season and were picking a fantasy team to start the campaign off, and I was so excited with my West Ham players. I felt like they'd ended last season so well and it was all looking so positive, and despite like not so much investment perhaps in their women's side, they just managed to sort of get it together, rally and put out these really good performances, and we just haven't seen that carry on into this season at all, really. and the last time out in the WSL was just not really ideal for them. A very quick goal to concede in your new managerial career for Rita Guarino. And yeah, I think that it's not looking the best for them. And as you said, they're losing their defenders as well. Not brilliant. Rachel Williams always looks bang up for it whenever she comes onto the pitch, no matter whether she's a sub for Man United or she's playing more minutes. She's just always wants to win. She seems like such a competitive player, always brings a lot of physicality as well. And I feel like, yeah, she's going to enjoy herself playing against West Ham. I think these two sides I probably watched the least of this season. So I can't really pick out any huge matchups that I think are going to happen, but I think it's going to be a low scoring. I almost think it could be a 0-0. That's where I'm going to go with it, because I think that neither side are looking particularly amazing. Of course, Leicester are heading in the right direction, but I'm still not sure they're completely there. And I feel like West Ham might just sort of park the bus slightly and it'll end goalless.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of thing that I can see. I personally would be surprised if you end up seeing this be an absolute goal fest of a 4-4 or something like that. I think a 0-0 is, not unlikely. Laura, how about you? Round us off, the final prediction.
Yeah, I hope the Rachel Williams winner comes assisted by Alicia Lehman for the full poetic result for that one. And we know that Leicester aren't shy of a kind of some kind of poetry with Ashley Neville scoring that own goal against in a first game away from Tottenham. But I think I think this one for me is probably the one I felt most difficult. I think Villa or United was quite, I don't know, maybe I think I just went with my heart on that one. But I think this one's genuinely like quite hard to call, just in the sense of like, I think West Ham's one of those ones where if their attack turns up, you can really see them. I think it could go the way of like they've got really talented players in that attack. You've got Martinez, say, Ueki, who all on their day can pose a real threat, and I think they could pose a real threat to that Leicester defence, because despite the strengthening with kind of bringing Sarah Mailing in and some important defensive signings as well as that Rachel Williams one, I think you can see Leicester kind of succumbing to the attacking threat that West Ham have if they get it right. But I think so often this season we just haven't seen that click, and often West Ham, it kind of takes the second half of the season for them to start showing anything. When Martinez came in January last season, and that's when it started to kind of work for them. But with this managerial change, it's almost like they've had to hit the reset button. And I completely agree with. I think that Amber Tiziak loss is huge for them, because she's been probably one of their best players, and the same with Anouk Denton. But I think the Tiziak one really worries me about West Ham, because it's not like she's gone to kind of a bigger stature of European club. She's gone to Union Berlin, which is such a cool hipster signing for her, but at the same time it doesn't feel like an upwards trajectory in her career path necessarily. Like, it might just be a personal thing for her, for her to do that, but I'm not sure. It feels worrying. Like, it feels concerning that she chooses to go there ahead of West Ham at this point in the season. So yeah, they do concern me. And I think I'd agree with Sam on this one in terms of a Leicester win. What the margin of victory? I don't know, because I can't see Leicester scoring a lot, but then I also can see West Ham scoring. But I don't want to pick 2-1 again. I'll go for 2-2, and I won't go for a Leicester win.
2-2. That'd be a good game if it's that. I'm hoping I might be at this game as well, so if that can be a 2-2 as a neutral, that'd be fantastic. Yeah. I think, like you say, it's hard to see Leicester scoring loads of goals, but my other thing is that, the thing of like the unstoppable force against the immovable object, it's like the reverse of this. It's like Leicester's attack that doesn't really score many goals against West Ham's defence that struggles to not concede loads of goals. So yeah, that's kind of why I've ended up going for Leicester as well. But there we are. There are predictions for the 6 games coming up this weekend. We're going to go on to Aerial Fantasy before we leave you today. Obviously, you two haven't been on the pod for a while, so it'd be good to get a little insight about how your Aerial Fantasy is going so far this season. Mine's recently started doing a lot better. I was doing significantly worse than I was last season. And then, the last sort of, I don't know, since about game week 8, I've ended up doing a lot better. I'm about 150 in the world now, and 36th in Decoding the WSL League. Laura, how about you? How have you been going? Because I feel like you're going to be quite good at fantasy. You give me good fantasy vibes.
I'm doing very well in fantasy Premier League. It's like one of the highest kind of top like 20k. So that's where my focus has been. But it's not been going as well WSL fantasy. I have to admit. I'm overall 682. So yeah, not amazing. It picked up a little bit last week. I think I tend to be hovering around Izzy's place in the mini leagues that I'm in with Izzy. But yeah, it picked up a little bit last week with kind of having the free transfers over the January. I feel like I've got a bit more of an idea. I did listen to the Decoding WSL Aerial Fantasy Special to aid me with that, I have to say. But yeah, last week was a little bit better, and I feel like I've got a bit more of a plan. Although I have just noticed that my 2 goalkeepers for the upcoming weekend are currently Borba and Lette, so that might not be going so well. But yeah, I was going to say, like, just off the back of the talking about the Leicester West Ham result, I do have Shannon O'Brien on my. Well, I had her on my bench last week, but she is in my team, and I think I'll be starting her with. She's been in very good form for Leicester in terms of. I don't know how guaranteed her minutes are now with Rachel Williams coming in, but I can see them kind of sharing it. I can't imagine Rachel Williams be playing like a full 90 minutes anyway. So. And I can see her keeping her place. So yeah, I think that'll be quite an exciting, like, potential. She's visionary at the moment, so whether against that West Ham defence, that might be quite a good pick.
Yeah, I like the Shannon O'Brien pick. I think she's one of those players that just seems to accrue points, even though she doesn't score. She's not sort of scoring every game as such, but she just every now and then she does get a goal, she does get an assist, she does get some extra. Some bonus points and stuff like that, and she just accrues points even though she's not that expensive. I imagine her sort of like return per million is pretty good. I think looking ahead to this week, I need to move around a bit because I've got an Arsenal player, a Villa player, 2 Chelsea players, and a London City Lionesses player, and I don't want to have all 5 of them in my team still because I think they're all gonna struggle to get too many points. I don't really know who to back. Also, a little bit of a humble brag, but I have also been doing a lot better. Sorry, stay with us, WSL fans, but I've also been doing really well in FPL this year. I'm absolutely gassed at it. I've gone down this week to 4,300 in the world, which I'm really happy about. And I can't wait to never hit these heights ever again. So I'm absolutely milking it while I can. Izzy, how are you getting on this season? Because are you above Laura at the moment?
I am doing really badly. I think that basically I had really good intentions of this really being my year. I was like, I'm really gonna every week, I'm gonna make my transfers. I've not been diligent and I've not been successful. And so I think, and the worst thing is I've missed the free January transfers. So I am gonna go for a clean slate this week, and I'm just gonna bite the bullet. I'm going to start again second half of the season. I know I've missed kind of 1 game week if you split it up like that, but I'm going to try and finish strong. And I'm feeling positive. But yeah, I similarly I'm not anywhere near your guys' levels, but just focusing a lot on Fantasy Premier League and trying to really climb the ranks of my mini leagues in there. And it's not been so good with Fantasy WSL, but I'm excited to finish strongly. I think I'm going to bring in Bunny Shaw because I didn't start the season with her and I haven't brought her in yet. I don't know why. I think I just couldn't fit her into the budget. But with the clean slate, that's going to be a move I'm going to make. I'm going to get rid of my London City players because I feel like I'm not going to get the returns I'm after there. But I've been quite good in the goalkeeper department because I've got Yamashita and Valentelis Joyce. So always quite a good... no matter which way it's rotated, I tend to pick up points there, which has been good. So I think I'll probably keep those pretty similar, but there's definitely going to be some changes to the front line. And I'm excited to see how I can finish the season.
I think both of those keepers are going to probably do quite well this week as well. Obviously, Yamashita's a bit harder to know if she's definitely going to play because Keating does get rotated in a bit. But you've got the Second Chance League.
But then she subs in for
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. We'll see how it goes, but the clean slate is definitely getting clicked. When I have a moment, I'm Wednesday. I think is going to be my fantasy football day.
Where you can just sit down and work out exactly what you're going to do. For me, it's normally a Friday lunchtime to try and work out both FPL and Aerial Fantasy what I'm going to end up doing. Yeah, you've got the Second Chance League to try and come back through that. So maybe try and get near the top of that. I know you've got Jacob Bernstein is at the moment, him and Tom Marr are both up there in that. That obviously started last week. Jacob, I've just looked at it now, is currently 8th in the world on that. So yeah, he's having a pretty good time of it so far. I think in terms of our picks for this week, I'm going to go quite heavy on City and Man United, but I need to try and figure out who from Man United is definitely going to play, because normally someone like Elizabeth Hurland would be a shoe-in for me, but with Schuller here now, you know, there's a bit more depth in their squad now, so it's a bit harder to try and work out who exactly is going to play. We've already got the Bon Pastor bingo, we've got Rene Roulette as well, and now it's trying to figure out something, because I think Skinner is also going to need some sort of alliterative or some sort of funny term. Skinner shuffle, yeah, like that. Credit Laura Howard with the Skinner shuffle. I just don't know who's going to play every week. I think people like Maya Letitia, people like Fantalus Joyce would be the ones that I end up having in my team this week. But I think Bunny Shaw is definitely going to be in there. I think she's going to have a really good time against London City Lionesses. She's going to be my captain despite the fact she's away from home. Casper is going to be in there. Rebecca Knack's going to be in there, who at the moment is still a visionary as well, which is crazy that the centre-back for the team top of the league is a visionary. So if you haven't got her yet, make sure to not get her in, because then she's still a visionary for me. Thank you. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. What about you two? Have either of you got anyone in particular that you're thinking to bring in that I haven't already mentioned?
Maybe some Spurs players for me. Well, I'm the same as Sam, as I've got 3 City players, but I'm gonna try and reshuffle just to boost one of my goalkeepers up. I think so I don't have, because I think with Van Domsel potentially coming back, Borba's not necessarily the best pick in terms of minutes. So shuffle something around there, and I've got Hemp and James in my midfield at the moment. So I think one of them's going to be sacrificed, and yeah, I still want 3 City. Obviously, I've got Shaw captained, but yeah, with James against Arsenal, that might be the one to give way there. But yeah, I think my pick might be a few Spurs players. Really good run at the moment. I've currently got Olivia Holt and Judith Blackstad, which was a bit of a gamble for last week and didn't pay off because she didn't play. But I think I'm going to check and listen out for some press conferences, check she's playing. But I think that could be a long-term pick for me in terms of the Tottenham. I think she'll get some attacking returns, as well as Tottenham just having some good fixtures.
Yeah, I've got some Spurs players in as well. I had Kopp last week as my main keeper, Tokakoga, and then Olivia Holt as well. They got 15 points between, which I was pretty happy with. Izzy, how about you? Anyone else you're looking to bring in?
Yeah, I'm just looking at Aston Villa's fixtures, and I think they've got quite a good run. I've sung their praises a bit as being difficult to beat. So they've got Everton, Liverpool, and then Spurs. But I feel like looking at the Everton and Liverpool fixtures, I'm going to possibly bring in Kirsty Hansen, because I feel like she's in good form at the moment, and those are 2 fixtures after the Man United game that I think she could get some returns in. And also I think against Man United they're going to score a goal, and it could be through her. And I think I just said I'm going to wait to do my teams on Wednesday, but I think I might wait until after these League Cup semi-finals to see who's played there, to see if everyone makes it through that, and then have a look. And yeah, I think they might give us a little bit more insight into kind of who we might see more of at the weekend, and who's got their kind of scoring boots on or clean sheet kind of mentality. So yeah, we'll see. But I'm definitely gonna do a big reshuffle.
Yeah, definitely wait till close to the weekend as well, because no doubt that if you do it now, one of your players, that probably a player you've brought in as well, will end up getting injured, and it'll be a complete waste, and it'll be one of your more expensive ones. And yeah, you'll just rue it and wish you'd done it later in the week. But yeah, there we are. There is the episode for you today, viewer. I hope you've enjoyed it. As ever, if you've enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, or like or follow wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow at Decoding the WSL on Instagram. And yeah, if you're not doing already, if you're just listening along, don't forget to go check out the YouTube channel at Decoding the WSL on YouTube. But that's all we have for you at the moment. Thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, viewer, for joining us. There is an episode of Know Your Stat coming your way as well. So we will see you at the next one.